Welcome, Aisha, and welcome everyone else. Welcome to the second session of Writing as Thinking. Today we're looking at something called ethos, and I've called it Ethos on Fire. Ethos is part of argument, and I just want to explain a little bit how it's part of argument. Then we're going to look at an exercise which recreates a visceral experience. As with all these exercises, you do not have to read anything aloud, but I'd like you to try this way of writing an experience from within it before you can qualify it, before you understand it, before you know what's going to happen next. Writing in a way that recreates the moment before it's processed. So do have a think as we begin of which experience you might use. It might be an extreme experience, it might be happy, it might be sad, it might be something that has many different conflicting things in it, which might be useful to describe. So welcome to everybody, and welcome to my colleagues again for joining us on this cold morning. We'll begin by understanding what ethos is. Aristotle defined all argument as comprising of logos, the thing that you're focusing on, your logic, your claim, reasons, and evidence, the implied credibility of the writer, the ethos, and the engagement of the values, beliefs, and principles of your audience. This triangle is a very useful, progressive way to keep framing what you're writing. It will change as you write. It's fuzzy at the beginning, and it will get sharper and sharper till it's finally finished and doesn't belong to you. You can use this frame for academic writing and for creative writing. If you look in the chat, I've got the prompts, and you can try these yourselves. I am studying, so Aisha, you might something about sister living, in order to find out how or why, what are your interests in this subject, so that my reader can see the significance of. Think about how you would fill in that frame at the moment. I'm going to give you two examples, and then I'm going to ask my colleagues how they would fill in that sentence in relation to their current work at the moment. It should be in the chat. Can you see it? I am studying, I'll write it again as they speak. I am studying in order to find out how or why, so that my readers can see the significance of. So for me, for an article already published, good. I am studying the written accounts of 3 US writing teachers who taught in South Africa from 1984 to 1992. That's what I'm looking at, in order to see if there were commonalities in their experiences, particularly in challenges to their pedagogy, so that my reader can see the significance of understanding the micropolitics of the South African classroom and can consider if some of these micropolitics are still active challenges to a pedagogy which promotes the citizen scholar. That was quite sharp because I know what I'm doing. Here's one that's less sharp and less academic. I'm studying letters and diaries and photographs from 1980 to 83, and then again from 2006, in order to see which voices and stories emerge strongest, how they speak to each other, to see the fracture lines and contradictions and how to make sense of them, so as to start seeing a possible whole, so that my readers can see something of the relationship between letter writer and reader, the situating of new experience within time, perceptions of people and their traces, and how those traces form unlikely symmetrical patterns. So this sentence is actually a tool. You can use it to work and at your focus, what you're going to be looking at, what your interest is, why your readers might be interested. So dear colleagues, who would like to go first? Fuad smiles.
I can go. I am studying translanguaging in South African visual artist studio practices in order to explore writing as multilingual embodied visual art practice and to interrogate how translanguaging speakers who write across and in different languages expand their creative processes towards epistemological becoming and healing. so that my reader can see the significance of approaching languaging as an embodied practice that does not always follow borders or national grammars, but rather that writing can be seen as a practice, as a time-based medium, a device to travel in time and space in a bid to activate embodied and resistant practices of self that transcend borders.
Lovely. You really like that sense of movement and time. Susie, it's in the Creative Writing Journal, which if you haven't got, I will email to you, but there are several pages which show that triangle of the logos, ethos, and pathos, and there's a few comments on it. Who would like to go next?
I can
I don't
go.
mind. Oh, sorry.
Oh, you can go ahead, Gabe. It's okay.
Are you sure? Okay. Thank you. Okay. So mine is, I am studying the narratives of embodied experiences as told by athletes with physical disabilities, henceforth known as different abilities, who have participated in the 2019 New York City Marathon. This is in order to find out the modes of support these individuals make use of in a neoliberal and ableist sporting context. Further reconsidering how assistive biotechnologies have yet to accommodate to their physical, emotional, and cognitive needs. This is so my reader can see the significance of embodied subjective knowledge, sensorial engagement, and personified support systems as modes of varied assistance for such individuals, in order to actively participate in a historically alienating communal experience.
Very good, thank you. Very interesting. Keobaka.
I'm studying history, focusing on Bophuthatswana's participation at CODESA and the Multi-Party Negotiation Forum, in order to find out how South Africa's democracy was negotiated and settled. Furthermore, unearthing different arguments, such as Bophuthatswana's call for a confederal political system instead of a unitary system we currently have, so that my reader can see the significance of exploring all sides of the debates presented at the historical transitional negotiation process that ushered in democracy in South Africa since 1994.
Thank you very much. Very good. How or Esther Marie?
Okay, I'm looking at it first. I am studying sonic agency in order to find out how sound can play a role in social exclusion, so that my readers will be interested in sonic redress as social inclusion.
Very good.
My turn. Oh, okay. I'm studying quantitative performance management systems in activity-based accounting systems of writing interventions, in order to find out how qualitative variables can be quantified to measure the value of performance indicators, so that my reader can see the significance of timesheets and marking rubrics as data minefields that could be useful in deriving quantitative measurements for key performance areas and indicators.
Very good and very useful. Is any of our participants brave enough to just try that sentence themselves? Aisha, Warren, Susie, anyone else?
I can try.
Yes, try.
I'm studying the relationships between sisters in order to better understand the fractured yet loving relationships between myself and my two much younger adopted sisters, so that my reader can see the significance of this non-biological relationship as a thread through my work.
Lovely, thank you very much. Anyone else want to have a go? You see, it's a hard sentence, but it's an extremely useful sentence, and you can change it, but it gives you a frame. Anyone else want to have a go? All right. So what we're looking at today, particularly in that triangle, is ethos, the implied credibility of the writer. So voice is, you know, voice is not something that we open up our hearts and there it is. Voice is constructed on the page. When we read something that's really good, we have the sense of a person behind it. It might be completely wrong, but the way that it's written suggests someone and some state of mind. What I want to introduce to you today is the idea of participant texts and spectator texts. So a participant text is one extreme. It's like mercury. It's when you're in the middle of an experience, you're in the middle of a maze, you can't see, you're living it. And if it's written very well, you sweat as you read it. You have that experience of that participation. A spectator text is like Vulcan or a crow on the top of a tree who looks down and sees patterns, sees qualifications, sees perspectives, makes judgment. A lot of academic text is that spectator text, but we can enliven academic text through moving down the spectrum and sometimes presenting experience that's not been qualified or made into a spectator experience, but that is there in all its confusion. So for example, I did this exercise with a Spanish academic who was writing about a Moroccan port that is still Spanish. And in fact, her family was from that port. And she wrote about going into the military archives. It was fascinating because of the cameras, her ambiguous feelings, her ambiguous relationships. She got so much into that participant text that would have been very hard to get into theory. It was before it was theorized, really. So let's see what are the characteristics of participant texts. I'm going to read you an extreme one, and I want you to think of what sort of state of mind it creates and how it is created. I can actually let you read it at the same time. So here we go. And I'll try and read it well. I'm afraid I've got a bit of food poisoning today, so my energy is a bit low. So this again is from the journal that you all should have. If you don't have it, please either email me or email the Time of the Writer people and get this journal, which has quite a few ideas for ways to start writing. So this is an extreme participant text. I'm going to read it to you as well as I can, and I want you to think, what sort of state of mind is it, and how has it created this state of mind? No colors except green and black. The walls are green, the sky is black, there is no roof. The stars are green, the widow is green, but her hair is black as black. The widow sits on a high, high chair. The chair is green, the seat is black. The widow's hair has a center parting. It is green on the left and on the right, black. High as the sky, the chair is green, the seat is black. The widow's arm is long as death. Its skin is green. The fingernails are long and sharp and black. Between the walls, the children green, the walls are green, the widow's arm comes snaking down, the snake is green, the children scream, the fingernails are black, they scratch, the widow's arm is hunting to see the children run and scream, the widow's hand curls around them green and black. Now one by one the children are stifled quiet, the widow's hand is lifting one by one the children green, their blood is black unloosed by cutting fingernails, it splashes black on walls of green as one by one the curling hand lifts children high as sky, the sky is black, there are no stars, the widow laughs, her tongue is green but her teeth are black, and children torn in two in widow hands, which rolling halves of children roll them into little balls. The balls are green, the night is black, and little balls fly into the night between the walls. The children shriek as one by one the widow's hand, and in a corner the monkey and I. The walls are green, the shadows black, cowering, crawling, wide, high walls, green, fading into black. There is no roof, and widow's hand comes one by one. The children scream and little balls and hand and scream and splashing stains of black. No, only she and I, and no more screams. The widow's hand comes hunting. The skin is green, the nails are black, towards the corner, hunting, while we shrink closer into the corner. Our skin is green, our fear is black, and now the hand comes, reaching. And she, my sister, pushed me out of the corner, while she stays cowering, staring. The hands, the nails are curling, scream, and splash of black. Up into the highest sky and laughing widow tearing, I'm rolling into little balls. The balls are green and out into the night is black. What's the next line? Aisha. Sorry, I'm picking on you. What would be the next line?
I'm falling black into green.
Pretty good. The next line is, the fever broke today. So the rest of the novel is not like this. This is just a chunk that's like this. What is the mood of this? What's the state of mind of this, and how is it created? Aisha? Sorry, I'll stop picking on you after this.
It's a state, well, obviously now that you say the fever broke, it's a state of delirium, but while you were reading that, it felt very visceral. It felt like we were experiencing that. It was very extremely, as you said, experiential. So, and the pace just kept picking up. And that juxtaposition of color, of green with black, of something one associates with fertility and growth and life on the one hand, and emptiness and starkness and darkness on the other, was very, very gut-wrenching.
So what are the characteristics of this text? You've mentioned the repetition of color, yes. How else does it get the viscerality?
By increasing the pace,
the pace,
the sense of being hunted.
And how does it get that, the pace and this way of being, how in the syntax?
The continuous half sentences and often a lack of punctuation which officially joins sentences together or cuts them off.
Very good.
So that running on feeling.
Yes, it's paratactic, these short little clauses, made up sentences one by one, finishing before a sentence should. It's disrupted syntax in order to create this sense of panic, of nightmare and nightmare associations, but it's been constructed. This comes, if you didn't know it, from Midnight's Children, which actually I read while I was in Lebanon watching those lizards. It came out in 1981, and it exhilarated me because of the way, what he's done with language here. He's completely torn language apart to create a sense of mind. And of course, it's highly constructed because, as you know, the Midnight's Children is about the partition of the subcontinent. So the widow, Aisha, is Indira Gandhi, and the hands and the balls are to do with the mass sterilization campaign. It's an absolutely brilliant nightmare that is a part of the art of the novel. So that's an extreme participant text. I've asked everyone to have a go at writing a participant text that's related to their work in some way. So let's hear my colleagues' participant texts, and then I'm going to ask all of you to have a go at writing a participant text and think of those characteristics: repetition, short sentences, you don't know what's going to happen next. And once you become aware of participant spectator, you'll see this spectrum everywhere, that often in a novel, you've got we're all nice and spectator, and then something happens and we're disorientated and we're in an experience, and then it goes back to a spectator. If a journalist is describing a war now, it will be, this is the context, and then things are happening, and they'll describe things that they haven't yet processed, and they'll give you that sense of the moment as it's happening. Right, so dear colleagues, who would like to read their participant text first?
I can go first, okay.
Thank you, Kiabaka.
Everyone did better than me, and it was because of my own ignorance that I felt cold. I wanted this feeling to end. I wanted to feel warm for my own achievement and pursue to be better because I knew I was. Intensively, every day and night was a mission to make history by achieving a distinction in history. Crazy much, I was studying the past and the present, hoping to feel the warmth in the future come examination. I needed to ace that exam. My sleeve felt empty of that during the exam. So I felt the cold intensifying as I entered the exam room, that felt like a war room. I decided to write about the Cold War, and funny enough, I felt winning this war against my own cold. The day got warmer, and it turned out that that day my pen was on fire as I got the distinction I longed for. It was that incident that sparked the fire in me to become the hardest historian I would ever come to know.
Thank you, Kiabaka. Lovely. Next
Thank you.
person. Gabby?
Okay, I'll go. While I was a support guide, I am firstly a human. Anybody and everybody needs support and guidance, no matter their physical and mental ability. We are all impaired in one way or another. We need to accept this and accept and appreciate the support and guidance of others. I came to realize that my biggest support lay in my weakness and how I was able to recognize the potential in myself, to push myself with the help of my engagements with others. I remember watching Nick and Tony crossing the finishing line and thinking how fortunate I was to experience something like this with my brother and my father, not as individuals who used to monitor their and their running partner's physical performance against a predetermined set of data, or in the context of an individual who was physically disabled. We had finally reached our summit with a smile on our faces and a gold medal to show for it. The day after the marathon, participants walked around the city with their medals around their necks. People congratulated each other and shared their experiences of running. A sense of community was established by the medals. You were able to recognize the endurance it took to complete the marathon. Anybody and everybody who had completed the marathon shared the sentiment of connection and togetherness. No one asked about Bevan or Nick's disability. They endured the same physical activity and exercised the same degree of agency to perform. The physically disabled body and its assumed and superimposed limitations and inabilities did not come into active discussion. It was absent from one's mind, especially when a big gold medal and showing it off was distracting you. This is all that really mattered.
Okay, thank you very much. How?
Cool. It's all about numbers. Numbers that count, numbers to num, to count, to find, to graph, to evaluate. We keep counting. Counting is logic, deductive, to deduce, to deduct, to introduce, to analyze, to make decisions, to be accurate, not precise. But the object, the whole sort of workflow process, perhaps, but not perhaps the ice cream making machine, because the essence and ingredients you need in order to bake ice cream that people will like. It's not about the ice cream itself, which is also about whether the ice cream will be sellable or not. The crux of the information, the gathering, the right, the wrong, the process. And so we go along to evaluate the ultimate ice cream.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Ho. Esther Marie?
That was lovely.
And see, it is quite interesting getting insights into ways of thinking within disciplines through particular people. Yeah, very good. Lovely. Esther Marie?
I'm poised to begin playing multiphonics. The alto flute is held horizontally, set on lips. Fresh air in, signal a tuning note for humming, ever so quietly. Hold, hold, position feet, arms, torso, neck free. I remember the pitch to hum. Go, hum and play. Feel hum parsing through vocal cords, muscles scraping flesh on flesh, opening a way to allow the humming through, lungs air passaging to sound the flute's other pitch at the same time. Hold still, once it's there, hang. Release into this held multiphonic, played and sung. There's more. At a precise angle and still straight tones, a low buzz may drop out. There it is, a low third note, 3 tones audible at the same time from a single flute mouthpiece. Now, planning the release and the sending off, both flute tone and hum tone, awaiting the reverberation, the brief silence.
Lovely. Thank you very, very much. Fuad?
The topic sits there on my desk, staring me in the eye, unwillingly and impatient. And I want to do what I need to do, and I know the questions I need to ask and the perspectives I need to elaborate. But I feel that I'm missing something that I read the other day when I felt touched by the text that I read just there. And then the text was written by, I jumped up when I read this line and felt touched. That's what I remember. And I remember the page and the font and the line spacing, and that I was jolted out of the then and there of reading, and I had to rush out because a friend was coming over and I had forgot to put food in the oven. But no, I was prepared. Yes, actually, I had prepared it the day before. That's when I started this text, which is in this book entitled, and I wanted to have lunch ready when friends came over, because to write and to talk and to share a meal goes together, right? And I had to prepare a few texts on visual art and language, and I was reading and collecting text. I was surprised how few art historians wrote about artists who worked with and in different languages, and to reflect on their positionalities and subjectivities, their widened view of the world, accessing different denotations and collocations of concepts. This richness in attending to the texture of languages, where sound turns into a material that you churn out using your tongue, just as if you were feeding someone with your mouth and ingesting at the same time the food of speaking. And yes, I was preparing the meal while reflecting on the artists eating and breathing languages, pairing, chopping, and grating words and sentences into text, and how the inner workings of language are revealed when the ingredients are added and stirred in the pot where they stew and turn them over. And that's just how we learn language. And then see the colors and the taste and the smells, and the doorbell rang just as I was cutting the thick skin of the butternut, paring down the pale hard shell with a knife, revealing the soft flesh of orange butternut inside, squaring the pieces. I felt missing a word, not remembering a word in German, and then going ahead and using an English expression, which I felt just the same as when you're cutting the lower half of a butternut where the orange flesh is narrow, and you have to decide how to balance the broad and thick squares that come out on top. And as I move on to slice triangular shapes with my hands becomes slippery, and one piece fell on the floor, and I shouted out, "What if?" as I picked it up, realizing that by the skin of my teeth, I might have missed this aspect of my research, as I was slicing words into different shapes, irregular orange triangle shapes that somehow match and somehow don't. The other day, I read an English text in German translation and was surprised that a rather different image emerged. And I felt unsure if I had not understood the English meaning properly in the first place, and that I was actually living in a gap of my own making where I understood English words differently, or if, perhaps and possibly, I do inhabit different meanings in German words too.
Wonderful. Many thanks, everyone. So now let's take 10 minutes, and for everyone in the audience, have a go at writing a participant text. See what you've got. So about 10 minutes from now. 2 more minutes. Okay. You need a bit more time, or are you okay? You're okay, I think. Good. Right. Was anyone able to write anything that they would like to share? Anyone from our audience? Did you manage to try something? You don't have to share at all. Yes, did we have a hand? We do. Macmillan.
Good afternoon, guys. Good day, guys. Okay, this is my attempt. Drip, drip, drip. Get up, drip. Get up, drip. The musk of moist, that's moss, drip. Yes, moss, drip. Get up, slip. Okay, sit, just sit, drip. Just breathe. In, out, drip. In, out, drip. Okay, Think, man. Think. Drip. We've got to get out of here. Think. Drip. Think. Drip. Drip. Okay, won't you just shut up? I can't hear myself think. Drip.
Very
that was
good.
as far as I got.
That's very, very good. Yeah. It's quite fun trying to guess what that was. I'm imagining that you're on a hike and you've fallen down somewhere. Then
Yeah,
what
I was
else
trying to.
Yes, yes, Mac?
Oh, I was playing with senses, just trying to figure out, in a place where you don't know where you are, you're just oriented, like you said. It's about being in the experience, and I guess my first inclination was to go with the senses, which is, yeah.
It was very good, very exciting. I want to read more. And I think people have said so in the chat. Yes. Yes. So anyone else want to read what they've written or bits of what they've written? Is there another hand?
I'm happy to try.
Please, Warren.
Okay. Working together, not so close, not too close. Guitar sounds fade. We've entered a passage of trees and bushes, tall trees playing, sunlight darting through the leaves. Beckon to follow, bongy gestures, her white umbrella framing her full-bodied curves, covered by more white, flowing tulle, wisps of satin and cotton. An urgency in time. We've entered the passage, nowhere to hide, nowhere to escape. A body wrapped in white bandage, from head to toe, tied to trees, trapped, feverish, unable to breathe. Lutando piercing the air, helpless, desperate, wanting, blind, a metaphor of lockdown, of COVID, of pandemic, of Mother Earth ailing, sickness all around. I can't breathe, I can't breathe. Drums drumming, stronger, faster, relentless pounding, angry rage, bodies moving forward. We leave Lutando behind. Nobody attempted to touch him, free him, helpless, hapless, soulless. We walk surrounded by moving bodies, twisting, turning, somersaulting. Drums pound, stop, silence.
Very, very good. What people, what do you think that was? What was going on there, do you think? Fuad, what do you think that was?
For me, it's not so much what is going on, but the rhythm and the tension of what is happening, like some urgency in terms of expressed in the words and in the texture of the sentence, right? Like there is a decision that needs to be made. And so, yeah.
How? I'm mute. Yes, good.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree with everything that Fuad has said. All of it. Copying out. But yeah, I mean, it's, you assuming?
No, you speak.
Oh, but yeah, I mean, it's more the rhythms. I sort of got lost in I don't know if I could call it feeling or something. So I'm not tangibly attaching myself to a particular emotion, but I'm just going through the roller coaster of trying to figure out, where Warren is going.
Very good. Great. That was great, Warren. And I'm assuming it was being in the middle of a play. That was really good.
Yeah, it was at a moment of a performance in a park.
Wonderful. Anyone else feel like sharing theirs? And obviously we've just written this now, so anything might have happened.
I can try.
Yes.
My feet are happy, tapping to the beat. The beat are my feet and my feet are the beat, tapping as I twirl and twirl and whirl and twirl and whirl and hurl and hurtle into the abyss. In free fall, I hurtle and hurtle into the abyss of my disappearing mind, my once reliable memory. Alzheimer's, fancy name of a fancy doctor for a very common disease. Alzheimer's, Alzheim, hers. It means nothing, nothingness. Hurtling and hurling, whirling, twirling into the abyss until my feet hear the music. Whirling becomes twirling, landing on a cloud, floating, free, happy feet.
Very good. Comments on that one? Esther Marie?
There we go. The piece was a wonderful reconstruction of going back to a memory, the twirling, dancing, tipping, tapping toe memory, which then is something fixed that you can remember from long ago, but then hurtling into the present where it seems as if things are disappearing, and it might be connected to the illness that's then described.
Yeah, I thought it's terrific, Aisha, and I like the way that you're sort of echoing Rushdie with playing with words, hurtle, hurt, going in, dancing. It's very, very good, very effective. Right, anyone else like to read something that they tried? Susie, good for you. Go for it, Susie.
Okay, I must just say that I'm not 100% on what the participant is, but let's give this a try. That's okay. I'm sitting in the writer's workshop and the doorbell rings, startling me. I'm startled, I'm disjointed, I am interrupted, reluctant, I get up. Bromsilla, I say to myself, or it could be someone reading the gas. I open the door and it's raining again. The rain that kept me awake the whole night, insomnia knocking at my door. I don't want to answer the door. Do I really have to answer the door? Who is knocking and where? There's a thudding, a banging inside my head. It cannot be on the door because the only access point is that intercom. Still, some people like Chris ring that bell politely. Others push down hard. Those are the ones I ignore. I'm walking backwards and forwards. I'm listening or trying to listen to the workshop. Be present, I say to myself. Forget about the doorbell. It goes on and on. The banging, the clattering. There's no clattering. I get up and take the intercom phone off the hook. The ringing is still there, the banging, the clattering. The rain is dropping still. It's wet everywhere. I want to go for a walk still today. Who on earth was ringing my doorbell? I still don't have a raincoat. Who could imagine so much rain? Was it important? What's the time? That's a lost opportunity. What was my sankalpa in the middle of the night when I was trying so hard to get back to sleep, lying on my side? Although the Yoga Nidra instruction said, lie on your back, breathe through your right nostril and imagine your left side is not there. Where is my left side if not there? I get up and pace. Where is it actually that I'm going to? What is that noise? Where is it coming from? I need sleep. I think of the subtitles on The Woman on Netflix, and they kept on saying that she was snorting. It was a live experimental type series that was the inane, that was supposed to lull me into sleep. But instead, the snort could not turn into a snore. I hear the dog barking, the dog that is hoarse now from barking. The words that come and go. I am a horse, I'm riding bareback. I'm back in the workshop, lassoing it all. Yes, I have arrived. That's it.
Very good, very, very good. So, thank you for trying all of those. That was very, very good. Is there anyone else who wants to try as well? Because it's quite amazing that you managed to do that in that short period. I think all the texts have been read out loud now are very effective. So our participant text just to go over the meaning of participant text is it is a spectrum. And if you think of spectator texts, which are very academic, you'll have long involved sentences and punctuations and qualifications and judgment. But before you have that judgment, you have the experience that is not seen from above, the experience that is lived in that moment, full of all the contradictions. And that type of experience, that sense of participation can be recreated, and this is where I think it's really fascinating, through syntax, through aspects of language that you've all been using. The repetition, the disorientation, the breaking of sentences, the quick association. Specifically that paratactic, that's a very strong feature, the short little bits of short phrases that are not joined. So it is a spectrum. It can be slightly participant, it can be extremely participant. And it's also quite fun after you've written a participant text to imagine a spectator text following straight after. So with Aisha's, it could be the doctor looking on, something like that, the change in experience. Right, any questions, thoughts or comments? Fuad has a nice comment about in the last two texts of the circularity, repetition, and iteration, emphasizing the futility of return. Very good. All right. Any questions or comments from anyone?
I think there are many types of research which, even in the academic dissertation field, create opportunities for this type of writing, which leans more towards the participant side of text writing, even though it's going to go into the academic dissertation with academic examination from persons who might not even be used to seeing this type of writing in an academic text. So in my example, when I did a dissertation a few years back, I knew that with reflection and especially experience-based reflection and simply the raw experiences, even before you start saying this is what I felt, and then it goes into, I flagged them by putting them into shaded text boxes, in a sense knowing that a busy examiner who doesn't want to be so immersed into many words which are too poetic or too personal could almost ignore them and go to the spectator conclusions that I offer, rather than have to wade through those marshes as well. So that was one way of working in an environment which doesn't simply say, oh, this is wonderful, as a poetic or a novel would say. This is a wonderful immersion into feelings and immediacy. But I don't know if maybe the anthropologists and the historians among us have other ideas about how participant research maybe allows for this type of text generation.
And I mean, I would say that it's often, if you're doing an academic work, it's a good idea to have a note at the beginning about the way that you've written it and your choices. And, you know, going back to the last session, there is an argument for saying that we don't know what's going on. We need to shake all our certainties a bit, because, you know, cliches don't cover what's going on at the moment. We have to, you know, think and see again. Fuad.
I just wanted to add, like, in a way, aren't we already in the middle of a certain form of writing that we have learned in terms of academic text, which has a certain participatory element, you know, the detached, the observant, is also a form of participatory text, showing that, well, you have to be distant and neutral, which nobody really is. So what I often do with my students is asking them to do reaction videos. I don't know if any one of you know that from YouTube, where celebrities film themselves when they watch a series, a football match or something. They give silly comments. So I ask students to read this text and actually to record their reactions as if they would be speaking directly to the writer and engage with them on level. and actually really say, like, why are you talking about this in such a non-committal way? Because if we go back to the Aristotle triangle that you had, it's also the 3 levels of logos, ethos, pathos, which are being employed in the writing. So they are always active. So, like, what I'm trying to say, isn't any academic text also a non-fiction creative text?
Yes. Probably pretends it isn't. Yes, thank you. Kiobaka?
I just wanted to comment more on what Foda said, because I can relate more to that. Because with my own research, I had to be creative. This exercise made me realize that I did this indirectly when I had to interpret some of the texts that were missing at the archives. But I had known that there was a meeting between the former president of Bophuthatswana Mangophe and Mandela. But because the archives didn't have those documents anymore, I had to role play and see the comments after the meeting, because we have no record of the meeting. So I had to really try and be the participant and really see from their comments after the meeting on how that the meeting went, so to say. So I can relate more to what photos say.
I guess that relates to the theme of the festival: memory, imagination, and conscience. And with your conscience, you're imagining what the memory might have been.
Perhaps dialogue is also a form in the argument is made up. Any argument is a dialogue between, right? Claim, you present the substantiation, evidence. So this kind of dialogue form is also one form of participatory in the observant text. So I like your example, Kiobaka. Very interesting. I'd like to hear more about that.
And Warren, want to have a last word, Warren?
Wow. I suppose for me, what I'm interested in is how one can use participatory text in very similar ways like poetic inquiry as a way to intersect with and dialogue with spectator text, and ready to take full ownership of that. Obviously, I'm speaking from an arts-based background, but to be, for me, the sin sometimes of the academy, the traditional academy, is that it often deconstructs and erodes the very essence of the art work, the soul of the work. So to try and find a way in which to retain that with some integrity and to allow the spectator text to contribute in reflection, in contemplation of the work. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. So the spectator doesn't erase the complexity of what happened, because too often arguments do. Or we just say this equals that, and it doesn't. The performance was a lot of different things. How do we somehow explore its multiple meanings and its complexity? Yeah, it's a tool. It's a tool for all of you to think of. And I do encourage you to use it and just to be aware of and play with those sentence structures to create different states of mind which serve your overall purpose, as in that extract from Rushdie, because it wasn't arbitrary that he was talking about green and black. It wasn't arbitrary that the widow's hand comes curling, curling. It was an artifice to create a premonition of the nightmare of the division of the subcontinent. Right, I think we've hit 12. So many thanks to everyone. Thanks to our participants. Do have a look at that creative writing journal. It's not a finished piece of work, but it's something I've put together for these workshops. And do have a very nice writing afternoon. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.